Hello everybody, my name is Rebecca Beall and I work here at Old Sturbridge Village as the collections manager and curator of textiles. And you may have seen some previous videos that we did on spinning equipment in our village collection, namely spinning wheels such as the great wheel and the flax wheel. So today we're going to talk about some equipment that you might be using after you finish your spinning project. So once you have finished spinning a little bit of yarn, your yarn is going to be either on the spindle of the great wheel or on the bobbin and the flyer mechanism of the flax wheel. Before you can continue spinning, you need to find a way to empty off your yarn onto a different device so you can continue on your wheel. The devices that we have here on the table will all let you do that. So the clock reel, or sometimes called a click reel, based on the noise that it makes as you're winding yarn on, is going to fulfill a couple of functions. One, it's storing your yarn, allowing you to spin more. The second thing that it is doing is acting as a measuring device. So as you're winding your yarn on, it's 2 yards around, once around, and this clock mechanism will click after 40 turns. 40 turns times 2 is 80 yards, and 80 yards happens to be a unit of measurement known as a knot. 560 yards is a full skein, so once you have 7 knots on your clock reel or click reel, you then have a full skein of yarn like this. And a lot of times folks will delineate their knots by tying an extra piece of yarn or string around those bundles of 80 yards so that you can easily count how much you have spun, which for anybody who does crafts knows it's very important to make sure you have enough material to finish your work before you start your work. Another piece of equipment that we have is a yarn winder. This does the very same thing that the clock reel does, but manually. It too is a 2-yard measurement once around, so if you start your yarn there, wrap around here, go around here, and finally back here, that is 2 yards. So if you count 40 times, that will be the same 80 yards that the clock reel has. Of course, the difficulty with this is that you have to count and keep track yourself, whereas the clock reel will give you that audible click when you've hit 40 turns around or 80 yards. So this yarn winder is going to do the very same thing that the clock reel does. Another thing that both the yarn winder and clock reel do is allow your yarn a chance to relax a little bit after it's been spun, to set the twist and get it ready for whatever the next step might be, whether it is weaving or knitting or plying your yarn together. So once you have your material on the clock reel or on the yarn winder, and it's been there for a day or so, you're going to take it off and you'll end up with a loop like this, which can be twisted into a twist or a skein for easy storage. Unfortunately, this is not very easy to work with. You're going to want to put it into a more convenient thing to work with, such as a ball of yarn. So from there, you might use some of the equipment on the table here, namely a squirrel cage swift or an umbrella swift. What this will do is take your skein and stretch it out a little bit to keep it from tangling as you're putting the yarn or material into a ball. The squirrel cage swift here has 2 cages that will rotate as you are taking your material and putting it into a ball, so it will advance with you. And basically it will keep your spun material from getting all twisted and knotted as you're putting into a ball of yarn. Another piece of equipment you might have instead of something large like this is a smaller piece called an umbrella swift, and it clamps to the table and does expand like an umbrella so that you can put your skein around it, and again it will turn as you're using it to put your yarn into a ball, keeping it from getting tangled or knotted along the way. So these are 2 pieces of equipment that you might be using to help you put your yarn into a ball. You could also use an obliging friend to literally hold the skein of yarn out as you're putting it into a ball. You might put it on the back of a chair, or in some cases, and when I'm very desperate, I use my own feet to hold the skein out as I'm balling yarn. So I hope we've given you an appreciation and understanding of all the different steps that are required for taking raw materials such as wool or cotton or flax and turning it into a spun good like yarn. From the spinning wheels, through the clock reels and measuring devices, through swifts, it really is a lot of different steps that come together to take a raw material and turn it into something useful like a yarn for weaving or for knitting or for whatever project you might have in mind.